I don't think people understand the unilateral divorce thing. So let me go back to the Bolshevik Russia with Vladimir Lenin. Maybe you're familiar with this, but under Bolshevik Russia, what the family was looked upon as part of the bourgeois institution, and we needed to get rid of this stuff because we needed to push communism, Marxism, whatever you want to call it, through. And one of the greatest deterrents to this was the family. How do we get rid of the family? This institution that can fight back. And what Vladimir Lenin did, he instituted unilateral, no-fault divorce. For any reason, for no reason, one person could divorce his or her spouse. There was an article in the Atlantic magazine, July 1926, called "The Russian Effort to Abolish Marriage." The Atlantic magazine is not considered to be this conservative bastion of conservatism, but they talked about the devastation wreaked upon society because of that. And eventually Russia had to repeal that because of how much social damage was caused.
Breaking down the family?
Bring it to America. We started with the no-fault divorce officially under Governor Reagan in California, and it spread like wildfire, but they had 50 states. And when California did it, everybody started to do it as well. And shortly after that, we had the abortion issue. People have not associated the dysfunction in our society, whether you look at the rise in gang activity, high school dropouts, you look at unwed unwed pregnancies, you can list even human trafficking. Social malady after social malady after social malady, prior to the institution of no-fault divorce and after, and it skyrockets. Yeah. And we've tried to say, well, it's got to be that we've got to fix something else here. We have to go back to the real issue. So we're really I'm glad that you're doing that. Yeah. And by the way, for the people out there are 2 states that only allow no-fault divorce by mutual consent, Mississippi and South Dakota. And what is so wrong with that? That 2 people agree to get married. Why can't 2 people agree to get divorced under no-fault divorce? Why is it forced divorce is what it comes down to. And that's what the situation you're in. We're fighting this actually nationwide in various ways through different states. It's very small right now, but we are fighting this. And so we've been watching your case very closely. And I'm glad you're making the challenge. So tell me a little bit more about it, if you don't mind.
Basically, one of the things that you had mentioned was challenging this under contract law, but actually in Pennsylvania and across some Supreme Court rulings have found that marriage is not a contract that can be easily
quasi-contract. It has elements of a contract, but it's more than a contract.
And, well, because of the nature of it. Where it's held, it's been determined that it is a fundamental interest. Yeah. And because of that, the state has to actually apply strict scrutiny to it. So really, it can't be applied the same way as other contracts.
So can you explain that a little bit more about that? Because actually, what you're saying is that there's a higher standard that they should be looking at.
Because of that. And applying strict scrutiny is actually when it's brought before the court that that there might be an issue with this, then it's not any of the parties' responsibility to find that fault, but actually it's the state's responsibility now to justify that what they're doing is actually correct. And that certainly isn't happening.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we should be having lawsuits against states then too, as well as the judges that are acting under the guise of law, and depriving people of rights under the color of law is actually a federal crime under 18 U.S. Code section or Title 242. It's punishable. FBI should be investigating this.
Yeah, the judge acting in a ministerial capacity is. And I actually, in the hearing, I told the judge that, that she's not protected. She is protected when operating in a judicial capacity, but in this case, in our case, she's making a ministerial decision. What's interesting is that a law has to enforce a single subject, and really, what they're allowing is that any plaintiff is a law unto themselves.
Right.
They can give any number of reasons why the marriage should be broken.
Right.
But really, they're not. So it doesn't fall under even the single subject, because they're simply executing the will of the plaintiff.
Right.
And never actually acting in a judicial capacity.
So for people that come from church backgrounds, I don't know, maybe you've heard this stuff before, like in the Jewish culture that Jesus was in, there were two different schools of thought regarding divorce. And basically one of them, the more liberal school of thought would be like, well, you could get divorced because your wife burnt eggs in the morning. Mm-hmm. She doesn't even have to do that right now.
No, nothing at all. All she has to say is that the marriage is irretrievably broken, which by the way is a political issue. It's or a theological issue.
Yeah.
It's not something that the judge is even able to have. So I'm challenging the subject matter jurisdiction of the court, because there's no. It's a political issue that the judge isn't able to rule on.
So let me ask a question. I mean, you're talking about things that a lot of people haven't thought about. Would it be safe for me to assume that you're college graduate, law degree, master's degree, something like that?
No, I graduated from high school here in Doylestown, and
really, okay,
and I did one or two college classes, but that's it.
And what do you do right now?
I'm the executive director for an ambulance.
Okay.
I'm responsible for 185 square miles of area, 2 full-time EMS stations.
Okay.
And all the grant funding and that kind of thing. So really, what I'm challenging here is, I don't have the quote unquote educational background to do all of this. So I really believe that what I'm doing is actually, God's led me every step of the way. Every time that I've come up to some challenge, and I've prayed about it, and God has given me the answer and led every step of that way. Mm-hmm. So it's not, certainly this isn't something that on my own power that I've been able to do, but he puts, just the right people at just the right times to do that.